It's time for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, the show that helps you be prepared to care for your family regardless of the circumstances that may come your way. Now, here's your host for today, Mark Lamb.
Well, once again, we find ourselves looking into our microphones and our notes. I've got Glenn Boblitz here with me today, Sustainable Living. Good morning, Glenn. So
Good morning.
What's on the agenda today?
Man, we are going out there.
You're going out there, huh?
Astrophysics, even.
Oh, gosh, wow.
Not quite that far
I can't
out.
spell that.
Much less understand it. It sounds all scary, but there's a growing interest in, and I won't call it a new fad because it's been around since like the 1700s, and that's electroculture.
Electroculture.
Electroculture as it applies to agriculture.
Okay.
Or gardening in our case.
Yeah.
They've been studying this a really long time. Started back in 1700. Some guy in France that I can't pronounce his name.
Huh.
But what this really is picking up energy from the atmosphere.
Okay.
You can call it etheric. Everybody's got a little name for it. But that's what we're doing. There's electricity in the air, and can't really call it electricity. You can call it an energy source because it comes in different waves. If you've read anything on Nikola Tesla, he was all about waves in space. Everything's a wave. The light you see is just a reflection of a wavelength. There's a whole lot of people talking about the different frequencies of things that vibrate at a certain frequency that causes influence on something else. Okay. It's a rabbit hole. You really can go down it, and they know nothing about this really. Somebody does, and I think they know more than what they think. And after we start describing some of the things that we're doing, you're going to look at the pyramids a whole lot different. The flipping pyramids. Now, the whole Earth is a giant motor. It has an iron core, just like an electric motor.
Right.
It has a magnetic field around it, and when you induce a magnetic field around an iron core, it tends to cause a spin. Now, you probably seen this stuff in elementary school where a guy makes a motor out of a piece of wire and sets a magnet under it. It's all pretty basic, simple stuff. Or is it? Is it so complicated it's actually simple, or is it so simple it's actually complicated?
Right.
One or the other, there's energy there, and there's all different forms of energy. And to think that they don't influence our lives or our bodies or plant life is pretty foolish. I started studying this stuff about 15 years ago and caught an article that says every tree produces electricity and can be measurable with a voltmeter.
Wow.
You stick the ground into the earth and one into the tree, into the bark, to the cambium layer, get into where it's growing part, and you pick up 1 volt. What the heck?
Yeah.
It's the leaves. The leaves are pulling it in. And it's creating a circuit.
Okay.
You have water nutrients going up and sugar coming down. So there's your circuit. So that produces that magnetic field, which will produce a voltage. So back to electroculture. These studies back in the 1700s were found that they knew energy was in the air because they've seen the lightning bolts. So they said, well, what if we can collect just some of that etheric energy, that free energy that's flying around, and put it down into the soil? What will react with that energy going back into the soil? Now, it happens all the time. If a lightning strike were to strike next to an orchard, the poor guy that got hit in the orchard, he probably got fried, way too much energy. But all the other trees around it seemed to do better over the next several years. Well, what it did was energize that soil. They go, well, what happened there? You know, this guy took a hit for the team, but now for some reason we have, okay, better results was the key here. That's what was noticeable. So fast forward to us, they started experimenting with it. I don't know whether the hippies in the 70s figured it out and brought it forward and just forgot about it, which is highly possible. So there is a resurgence of this.
Okay.
So much so that you can buy these little devices online at Walmart.
Okay.
All right. Now, how are they doing this? They're doing it through like a radio antenna. Instead of broadcasting signals out or pulling signals into your radio, which is the same principle here.
Right.
They're putting it into the ground, and apparently, you know, the plants like the sound of the earth's music.
Interesting.
You know, isn't it? We're sitting here broadcasting out on the same principle.
Mm-hmm.
So now we get into the energy waves and the different types. You know, you've heard of an EMP coming in from the sun. It's a huge amount of energy, and it's a broad spectrum of energy. Well, all that's hitting the earth and being absorbed in. Well, what effect does that have?
Mm-hmm.
Some bad, some good.
Right.
Too higher energy, you know, it's the old theory of 1 teaspoon of sugar is good in your coffee, 25 is not.
Right.
So these subtle energies that are coming in get dissipated around the earth, and they're doing something. So they started figuring out that if you put a small amount of electricity into the earth, plants respond.
Interesting.
Positively. Now, is it running an extra battery for the plants? Some, but it's mostly the magnetic waves that affect the plant directly.
Uh-huh.
And they're coming in at all the different frequencies, not just one. So apparently the whole world was set up to be harmonic with all these waves. And they all do something different. We don't know what they all are. Now, there's so many frequencies that if you change just a little bit, it changes the pattern because it's coming in at a different frequency. And when I say patterns, it actually creates, if you had a sand plate pattern, and you can check this out on YouTube all over the place, it's called a sand table. And if you vibrate that sand table at a certain frequency, it'll make a pattern.
Yeah,
and the patterns are not just...
I've seen that video.
Yeah, the patterns are not these just little ripples across these things make these beautiful patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And these patterns seem to be duplicating themselves in the plants.
Mm-hmm.
A flower, a zinnia, or anything that has that cool look to it.
Mm-hmm.
A certain vibrations will cause that pattern. Now, they're just figuring all this stuff out, and they're going, wow, we must be getting this frequency because that flower now produces that same pattern in its flower itself, the blossom. So there is a connection here for sure. Then there is magnetism. And in the world of chemistry and physics, everything's about a positive and negative charge. Put H2O together. Well, how'd that happen? Well, it's a magnetic charge between the electrons. One's out of balance and needs some negative energy to make it balance out. Everything's trying to get to balance. So that's what's happening here. I'm pulling these negative energies out of the ground, collecting positive, and it's trying to neutralize itself. Well, when you do that, the soil responds.
Okay.
If you have excess, it gets dissipated out into the soil, and all those minerals that are in there now are combining or breaking down or separating and becoming smaller particles that plants are using, that microbes are using. Now, this is getting all pretty deep here. So A, it charges the ground. B, it causes a chemical reaction underground because you've influenced these minerals. It excites the microbes. it gives them a little extra charge.
Right,
I
sure.
mean, you ever been hit by an electric fence? Yeah, you're excited.
Like having a good cup of coffee.
Exactly. So what's the coffee doing for you?
It's stimulating and
It's combining with your blood sugars and all that kind of stuff. I'm not the chemical wizard
Right.
here, but same thing. It's converting it into an electrical energy that you can use. Plants are doing the same thing. They know that if they pull up a certain mineral, it can help their body function. Or
Right.
their, I wouldn't call it a body, but themselves to function. And everything is like it. We're an electrochemical being.
right.
So when we eat them plants, we're getting those same charges. That's why live food is 10 times better for you than dead food.
Yeah.
Sounds like Rough Greens commercial.
Yeah, I
though.
know, I
think
know.
that was an instant plug for Rough Greens. God bless them.
Yeah.
So I started really researching this thing. I said, I'm going to build me one of these. And you can buy a simple one.
Just for you all to know that Glenn does electrical. He's a contractor, so electrical is part of his life. He wires up houses and does additions, and so he has a little bit more introspective understanding of electricity.
And to add to that, I work for a company that generates the power.
Right.
So I've been exposed to the generation part down to the usable part
Right.
For the customer. So there's a lot of electrical theory out there, and that's what made me go, wow, I see potential here. Now, I can make a magnet with electricity.
Right.
Everybody can. It's called an electromagnet. You probably did it in 4th grade.
Right.
Well, that's what this thing's doing. If you run voltage through a coil around an iron rod, it creates a magnet in the iron rod.
Right.
Well, my iron rod's hooked to the earth, so now I got a magnet with free energy coming in, and I hate that word, free energy. Nothing's free because it cost
Right.
me several dollars to build this thing.
Sure.
So nothing is free. So we've got this free energy. Nikola Tesla knew about free energy. He drove an electric car in 1909 by pulling this etheric energy out of the air.
Interesting.
He wanted to send electricity through the air free because he could collect it. He had already figured it out. And the powers that be at the time cut his funding, which was J.P. Morgan,
Wow.
big banks. And they said, you shut up. And that's because they just built Niagara Falls power plant.
Okay. All right.
That's what caused all the trouble for him.
Right.
From that point on, they shut him down.
Wow.
They took his funding, which pretty much took him bankrupt. So this has been suppressed for a long time. Now, this study of electroculture, like I said, started in the 1700s and was pretty much booming right up to the 1930s. After the 1930s, it started to be depressed because they were making petroleum products. Now, one of the petroleum products that they found after World War II, and I think it was Dow Chemical and someone else, they said, we've got all these chemicals that we've been using for war that we can now turn into fertilizer. So the whole fertilizer industry was born out of war products.
Did not know that.
They knew that they could take all the petroleum that they were producing and the chemicals and actually make this nitrogen fertilizer,
Right.
phosphorus fertilizers. All these things were used as weapons of war that now that they don't need, but they've invested so much into these
Right.
plants, they go, we got to find another use.
Use
Well,
for it. Yeah.
hence the fertilizer industry was born.
Okay.
Now, that became so huge, so fast, that they didn't want to lose it. So they couldn't allow electroculture to advance any more than it already had. Up until the 1930s, you would see telephone pole antennas all around people's big farms. The larger the antenna, the more power it can draw in. Now, how much could you draw out of the air? Well, they say at 10 meters high, with one of these antennas, you can pull in 100 volts.
Really?
100 volts. So
Interesting.
I'm thinking if you went up another 5 feet, we'd be at 110 volts.
Yeah.
And that's the same as the power coming out of you. That's a lot of energy in
Right.
the air.
That's what your outlets are, except for your stove.
So, the bell went off in my head, and I said, well, let's see what I can collect. So I made one that's 20 feet tall. And I did put it on
Okay.
Sustainable Living Made Easy. You can see the picture of this thing.
Okay.
So I just copied what somebody else had already researched and done on a much larger scale.
Right.
So got my meter out and actually said, okay, we're going to see if all my little labor putting this thing together actually worked. Had it set in the ground, but did not have it hooked up to the earth yet.
Okay.
Got a ground rod and this electric wire that I'm thinking is pulling energy out of the air. And I put the meter on it and produced 27 volts. 27 volts.
Yeah.
Your car battery's only 12.
12, right.
This is 27 volts. Now, the amperage is not real high, or the wattage, however you want to look at it. It was only half an amp, but it was free and proved the principle. So I hooked her up. Now we're just waiting to see what it does. And it supposedly puts out a charge in a radial pattern
Okay.
and goes over the whole earth, depending on how far and how much energy you have. So that's what the principle was back in the 1930s. You'd put them around the edge of your farm and created a secondary field all the way around your farmed fields. So now you have a circuit around your field that should be able to influence the whole field, and did. Now, if you start reading about this stuff in modern reports, that some people get kind of excited, about doing these little projects and tend to exaggerate a bit, and they'll say, "Oh, we got 300% yield." Down to about 27% yield is what the low end of it is. Okay, if I could get 27% more produce out of my garden, I'm a happy camper. There's not much out there you can get 27% return on your investment.
Anything, yeah.
Right, and it's not that hard. Okay, so you're not going to build this 20-foot antenna. You go online and you can find them as small as 8 inches high that you can stick in a flower pot and it still works.
How about that?
Now, these are very simplistic, and it is just a wire, a heavier copper wire works best because it's a good conductor. But it just goes up and does a couple little spins and turns, and it makes this cool little shape.
Right.
But it still picks up that energy.
Right.
A lot of people are using about a 6 to 7 foot stick. The reason I say stick, because wood tends to be non-conductive.
Right.
And they'll wrap a coil of wire all the way up around it, a little snake-like device.
Right.
At the top, put the wire sticking straight up as like an antenna. Or you can do some little cool antenna on top. The more surface area you got, the better off you are. So all of these work and pull in. The higher up you go, the thicker the wire, all those ratios. But the point is, you're pulling energy out of the air. Because we don't know everything about what we're doing in the whole industry, and they really don't want to put any money into this because agriculture, fertilizers, too big of an industry to go jumping on. But you can do these. You can absolutely do these. Now, do your own homework for sure. If you have a little voltmeter and know about this kind of stuff of using a voltmeter, check it out for yourself. Now, the results, I hope you get 300%. But I know darn good and well that I'm putting energy in this earth, and this earth is definitely a magnetically and electrically run world, including the plants. And if they're running a circuit up and down the trees or plant or tomato plant, I don't care what it is, giving it a little extra energy ought to make its job easier. One of the things it does is fix nitrogen to the soil. not because it has some whiz bag thing, is because it's just setting up an electrical field where it can actually fix that to something that has a negative energy with the positive energy. It becomes neutral, inert, where the microbes can use it. The microbes give it to the plant. We done just talked about this. So you can see there's a symbiotic relationship to all of this. It's not just one thing here. It's a working system.
Right.
That was a real good design. Now the pyramids come in.
Okay.
You know that they just found a giant set of coils going down into the earth. I forget how many hundreds of feet underneath the pyramids.
I did not know that.
Oh my gosh! Look at them. Look it up. The pyramids with I think it's basalt rock that has a copper coil around it going deep into the earth. Now, everybody should know by now that those pyramids collected energy. It was capped with gold, just like my little electroculture antenna. Good conductor at the top. So I'm not sure what all they did with it, but I'm telling you, the dang thing looks just like what I just built in my mind. And I'm going, okay, that thing is definitely pulling in electricity or sending out. And you start reading about how the pyramids were actually built when they were new, or whoever built them. They had casing stones on the outside that were of good conductor. I think it was turrene, which is a type of rock that was an insulator, so it didn't lose any of that energies. They find the Egyptian batteries down in there. You know about those? These things were like 3 or 4 foot tall, had an iron core in the center of them, just like a giant D battery that you'd put in a flashlight. Now, what were they doing with batteries? And they were hooked together with, I think it was copper or bronze bars, and they were hooked together in a series. They just created a pretty large amount of voltage.
Yeah.
Where'd they get the charger? So all these things are coming to light. And I'm going, okay, there's more to this world than we know. And if I can't find the information, daggone if I won't try to duplicate it. So that's what I've been doing, and we'll report back on this.
Okay.
And there's more to it than what we give credit for. The magnetic field is huge here. We get magnetic waves all the time. Some of them are not good. This 5G, I think, is interfering with a whole lot of things. Just like a guitar string that is out of tune.
Okay.
Instead of getting that harmonic, beautiful sound, one of them strings is out of whack, and I think it's 5G. And I think it getting out of whack on us too. We put in the earbuds directly to our flipping brains. We flood our living room with it because we have wireless.
Right. Yeah.
These can't be good, but it was meant for good. But it has some side effects, just like most medications. It was meant for good, but there's a few side effects. And then you hear the list of side effects and you go, holy cow, I'm not taking this no more. So, and I'm not bashing the communication industry. I'm just saying we don't know everything that's bad. And when they get to making big money, they don't give a crap.
Don't care.
We have seen that over and over again.
Yeah.
So all this electricity and energy and all this stuff is starting to make sense. Have you seen the new bed sheets that are grounded?
I've heard something about it.
I'm here to tell
I've heard a little bit about
there's
them.
something to that.
Well, isn't it like you should walk around barefoot for a little while every day?
That was my next point.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking about that you get grounded.
Even the some of the sayings, being down to earth. When you put your hands in that soil, there's something to it. So there's got to be more to it than we know, and we need more help to find out because they're not going to tell us this stuff freely.
Right.
And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just saying, I'm observing that you all people are suppressing some good information. Why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And of course, they just pat you on the head and said, "You conspiracy theorist." Okay, well, it's not a conspiracy if it's true.
Right.
So find out if it's true. That's my point here.
Okay.
Make one of these little coils, or buy one at Walmart. For goodness sakes, stick it in a potted plant right next to one that doesn't have it. Look for yourself.
Yeah. See what the difference is.
You have to start thinking for yourself here, people. If you're not willing to think for yourself, somebody else will do it for you, and you're really not going to like it.
You're at their mercy then, too.
I agree. And sometimes they're not real merciful.
Well, let's take a break here, Glenn, and come back and talk a little bit more about this topic and whatever else you brought to the table for us. We're with Glenn Baublitz. You're listening to Sustainable Living Made Easy.
Get ready for a new soundtrack for your life. Doc Rock, Smith Mountain Lake. It's music that'll take away your troubles for a while.
That's what I'm talking about!
Wake up with Janet and Mark on the Morning Jam. They'll keep you informed and encouraged, and we all need more of that.
This ain't jam.
You're invited to be a part of the Doc Rock family, your feel-good station. Doc Rock, Smith Mountain Lake.
We're back with more Sustainable Living with Glenn Baublitz. Be sure to look for Sustainable Living on Facebook for even more information and follow-up conversations with other members. Now, here's your host, Mark Lamb.
Back with Glenn Baublitz, Sustainable Living, talking about energy being in the air and in the ground and ways to maybe harness some of that energy to help our plants grow a little bit better and, heck, even help you out as a human being individually by walking around your bare feet maybe sometimes outside just for a little while to get yourself grounded.
We're just slipping back in the 70s here, getting back to nature and going barefoot and listening to ZZ Top.
There you go.
But let's go back to the actual benefits of some of this stuff, some of the research that we've pulled up, and how it should be done and could be done and would probably help. And one of them, like I said, nitrogen fixing, we already addressed that. But it definitely increases the water uptake of your plants. It reduces the surface tension on the leaves. Now, they know this through Kirlian photography. You know what that is? This guy figured out a way to see the energy coming off of plant life. And this specialized camera picks up electrons. So he took a picture of a leaf, and he noticed there was an aura around it of electricity, coming off like little spikes. Wow. And he goes, wow, what the heck's that? So that aura, I don't know whether you call it the soul or whatever it is, but it's there.
Right.
They cut the leaf in half. The aura stayed in the same shape of the original leaf.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't show a cut piece. So something's going on here, folks.
Wow, that is interesting.
All right, so in a pure gardening sense, it's helping have nitrogen available to your plant, which is a big deal.
Right.
Increasing the water uptake. When you uptake the water, you uptake minerals and things from the soil. That's what the root's job is. So it increases that. So now we can see why people are getting better productivity out of the plants.
Right. Makes
it
sense.
Speeds up the chemical process between the plant taking up minerals, using it in its process for bringing down sugars and making their own immune system. Everything is about your immune system. When it does that, it gives the plants the ability to send out chemical messages. Holy crap, here we go again. It sends out a chemical message to pests.
Really?
Oh, my goodness. So they've known this for a long time. The acacia trees in Africa, when an elephant comes and tears up these acacia trees, and they do tear them up,
Right.
they send out a chemical signal,
Okay.
a sap.
All right.
The sap turns the leaves bitter, and the elephant quits eating on the tree.
Wow.
So it's a defense thing.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But not only does it do that, it sends a vapor of that sap through the air to the other trees. And before the elephant can move to the next tree already knows he's coming,
Wow.
has already made his sap bitter, and the elephant bypasses and doesn't overgraze the trees. Okay, this is a good design again.
Yeah.
So this is what's happened. So they figured out that these chemical message going through the air that obviously we can't detect also tells the bad bugs that are coming to your garden, don't mess with this. It's too healthy. Look for the guy that's not sending out a signal.
Huh.
That's the little weak eggplant over here on the side.
Right.
He looks kind of pitiful. He's kind of pale. He's not putting out a signal. He doesn't have any defenses. Let's attack him.
Okay.
So if it's repelling insects, what about my bees? Just the opposite.
Really?
The bees say, this guy is healthy, and the bee's not attacking the plant, it's helping the plant
Okay.
by pollinating.
Pollinating.
So not only does the bee pick up the signal and uses it as a tool to know that that's a good plant to go to, because if a healthy plant is healthy, it'll put out better nectar.
Yeah.
Are you starting to see connections just everywhere you go?
Yeah.
Except for us. Okay, well, get connected. Get down to earth. So there's another one. In order for plants to have that strength to put out fruit, and then it has to have strength to put out the taste that you're after, it has to make these complex sugars. In order to do that, they must have good development in these specialized proteins that only come when the ground is charged and can discharge these minerals so the plant can uptake them. So you can see if we don't have this magnetic energy going, which the earth naturally does, it's a weak flow. We're adding more energy in, just like your car. Your car won't go very far without the energy from the gasoline. That's the energy source. So we're doing the same thing. We're gassing up your garden, giving it the energy to run properly, run at top speed. Holy cow. This is why I said I need to look at this. And I can't wait till the fruiting season of our garden to see if I see the radial pattern or I see a quantifiable increase in productivity. Sound like an office manager, don't we? But over the past 15 years, I write things down all the time. I know how many potatoes come out of that garden. I know how many pounds I planted, and I should be able to quantify that pretty easily.
Yeah.
Because my garden maintains itself because I help it. So I've really not done anything different other than plug it into the recharger. And that's what it seems like it is to me. It's like just like your phone charger.
Yeah.
Your phone doesn't work very good when the battery's real low. Same thing. I'm seeing if I can recharge the electrons in the ground and see if it makes a difference.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
All right.
So that's where we're going to end up today.
Okay. This is very interesting stuff. Very interesting.
I'll give you something to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we know that there's all kinds of things going on that we can't see.
Well, back to the pyramids. That's a pretty good example of a super successful agricultural endeavor. Look how many people they had to feed
Yeah.
in the flipping desert.
Yes.
And if you look at the hieroglyphs, it was a tropical paradise. Maybe they used them pyramids for agriculture first and communication second. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it certainly looks that way.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Glenn, as always, thanks for helping us out. I know that this is a time-sensitive podcast with this next little bit that we're getting ready to talk about.
Yep.
Because this will drop on Friday. You have an event tomorrow. Just talk about it briefly, and for those that are getting the podcast either on Friday or early Saturday morning.
May 3rd, that's Saturday. We start at 10 o'clock. We're going to do a little homesteading festival like we've done. Got a bunch of vendors coming in. Got a lot of people talking about it. One guy's going to talk about mushrooms.
Okay.
Growing mushrooms for yourself on your homestead. Another food source that you probably don't know about, and how specialized mushrooms can be. Edible mushrooms.
Right.
So come out and see us. We're also going to be talking about bees. That's to be a two-part. Mine's going to be the importance, how to plant pollinate flowers and things for your bees,
Right.
Which are extremely important, and beekeeping itself. So, and there's going to be some other smaller classes too. So come out and see us. We start at 10 and end about 4:30.
The Rurton Club is right there off English Tavern Road. You can either come in if you're going south. English Tavern Road is like a big C. It enters and exits on 29.
Correct. Just
So-
below the Kubota dealership.
Yeah,
That's
so
how
if you're
typically
coming
go
in and you turn left to get in and catch that part of the loop, the Rurton Center is going to be on your right. If you're coming
Correct.
in from the south, it's going to be on your left.
About a mile up there. Stop at Davis Produce. That's a good guy.
Yeah.
Stop there. Come on up. I think there's a big yard sale that weekend. So
Okay.
while you're out and about, come see us and we'll talk a little bit.
All right, Glenn, thanks.
Thank you.
Join us again next week for Sustainable Living with Glenn Boblitz, helping you be prepared and not scared. This podcast drops every Friday anywhere you get your podcast.